Hey guys, welcome to my channel. This is my author's journey sort of series of videos where I'm updating you with each major step along the way to authorship. That's probably not the right terminology. As an author, I should probably know the terminology. But having a book published in the traditional way by a major publisher, and my dog just caused the camera to move. So the next major step has occurred, which should have been at least one step before, if not two, but that's okay. I had been waiting for the line edit step from my agent. So basically what happens is when you get signed by an agent, in this day and age, it didn't used to be like this. In this day and age, the agent is also basically your first line editor. So they will send you an editorial letter that says, take care, and the letter, by the way, is like 10 pages long. Take care of all of these things. And also within the manuscript itself, they will have marked it up and said, I don't know about this, you can cut this, rethink this, those kinds of things. It's funny, people think that once they've written their book, it's written, I'll revise it like 5 times or whatever, and then it's perfect. And no, it's, no. So anyway, so we went through all of that, and then the next step after that usually would be line editing, but sometimes you do a second round of all of that same stuff, and that did happen. And so then I did another round of the big picture stuff and then sent that to her, and she's got, of course, many other clients, so I can't just expect her to immediately get to my manuscript. She just put one of her other clients out on submission, which is where I'm hoping to get, which is the book is perfect. Well, not perfect, but the book is as polished as it can possibly be. And now we've created a pitch package, and she then contacts editors at specific imprints of specific publishers. Anyway, so she's just now put one client out on submission. She has now put a client, her very first client ever, he's on his second round of submission because the first round didn't go so well, and so they took some of the feedback and retooled his manuscript, and he had been working on that for months. But now it sounds like he's got all that under control, so now he's back out on submission. She did get back to me last night and said, okay, great, thanks for your patience. Here's your manuscript back with my line edit suggestions. And I've been kind of secretly dreading this part because my understanding of what line editing was, having never been through it, is that basically every single line in my manuscript would have, could we shuffle these words around? Like, basically the whole point of line editing is when you're reading a book, if it's done correctly, every line shouldn't be the exact same length. If you're going for a stylistic thing and you want to have like several short, punchy sentences back to back, and then you would not want to have the whole manuscript be that way. You'd want to have some longer ones and some medium-sized ones and some, the point is you want to vary it up. The reader, just your eyes get bored at looking at the exact same length of sentence every time, and also sentences in the exact same structure you don't want, or certainly not the usage of the same words repeatedly. Like you want to see the word slow twice in the same paragraph, or even in consecutive paragraphs. You would want to see a completely different word instead of slow. That's what I thought I was gonna get from her, was like tons of markups. Like it would basically be a lot of work. I thought it was going to take like a month or something. And I was expecting to do a lot of pushing back. This is the stage that I was dreading the most, because this is the stage where it's like, poetically, I would prefer the line to be the way it was, and I understand why you've rewritten it to be that way, or you're suggesting that it be rewritten this way, but I like the poetry of this particular line, because that has already happened once before, by the way. She did take a line that I thought was just right, and she rearranged some of the words, and I understand what she was going for, but in my opinion, it changed the meaning of the sentence too much. It now meant something slightly different than what I had intended. So what I did is I tried to find the compromise, because I understood why she did what she did, but it again changed the meaning. So I just tried to figure out somewhere in the middle, which actually strangely meant taking out like a third of the sentence. And frankly, now the sentence is better. It's better than I originally wrote it. It's better than she revised it. Now it is, frankly, a better sentence. So this is all meant for just trying to make the manuscript better, trying to make it sound like it rolls off the tongue, the best possible way. And it's not as if she's saying, you must change it to this. It's like, I felt it was a little clunky. Here's my attempt at rewriting it. What do you think? Don't worry about it. If you don't like this, you can go back to your original way. That's the general concept of the whole thing is, frankly, I could reject all of her suggested changes, and that's fine. She likes the manuscript enough to want to represent me anyway, so she'll go ahead and send that on out there. But I, as somebody who wants to, score the best possible deal, definitely want to take her expertise into consideration. And frankly, as long as it doesn't make it worse, I'm going to go for it. So that's what I thought this stage was going to be. I thought that basically every sentence she would have like a suggestion, and it turned out she had maybe 5 suggestions for the whole entire manuscript, and they weren't even necessarily what I would call line edit kind of suggestions. There were more back to big picture-y kind of things. 2 of them were continuity. One of them was like, why does he say good night when it is morning? And it's like, oh crap, you're right. That's because the original version of the manuscript, this scene took place at night. And then I cut that scene out of a whole chapter that I got rid of basically entirely and shoved that scene all the way back in the beginning of another chapter, at which point it was morning. But then that made me go, ooh, but what's clever about this is I can still leave it say goodnight, but have the characters react to it like, dude, what are you talking about? It's morning, which is perfect for that character because that character is, would say goodnight during morning because that character is based on somebody from my real life, my first ex. So yeah, no, that works perfectly. But, I would have never even thought of doing that if she hadn't pointed the continuity issue out. And then there were a couple other situations where the characters had gone to get some fast food, and I don't know if this was a case of in editing, I had moved some things around, and that's why the continuity didn't make sense anymore. But at one point, the main character is eating a burrito, but then 5 lines later, they're still waiting for their food, and then they get their food, and it's like, oh, yeah, that must have been a case where I snipped this out and shoved it back up here. But yeah, so anyways, I had to rewrite that. But there was no real line editing stuff. The closest thing to line editing is that she highlighted a sentence that I had written that I'm frankly super proud of. It's much more poetic and literary than I typically tend to write, or at least for that particular book. I was trying to go for a more like contemporary, concise, to the point voice, but I had written this sentence that I thought was just chef's kiss. It perfectly, in my opinion, perfectly described how this character was feeling without saying he was anxious and nervous. You don't want to tell your readers, you just want to show them. And so I thought it was a good sentence. I'm going to share it with you, and you can laugh at me if you want, but I just said it's written in first person perspective. So he says that his stomach is full of bees. And I thought that perfectly describes when I was trying to envision, like, what is this nervous energy he's feeling? I don't want to write, I was filled with nervous energy. That's terrible writing. But, what would that feel like? And I was like, the frantic energy of a swarm of bees buzzing around. And I liked that sentence. She highlighted it and said, expound on this some more. And I was like, but I thought that perfectly. I feel like adding any more to it makes it worse. Like, well. So I went ahead and wrote up an extra couple sentences previous to the bee thing, and I don't know how I feel about it. I put it in there. Maybe if the book does get picked up by a publisher, that editor will say, let's just cut all this out and leave a stomach filled with bees, and then I'll be like, yes. This round was not at all what I was expecting. What I was expecting was every sentence to be highlighted and suggestions to be made, and instead there were 5 suggestions, most of them just continuity stuff. Okay, I'm not complaining, because frankly, I was dreading having to go through my whole book and then feel like I was a terrible writer, because basically if every sentence is highlighted and there are suggestions being made, it's like, wow, I'm clearly a terrible writer. But now that there's only been 5 things suggested, and they're not even necessarily line edit changes in my opinion, it's like, maybe I'm a good writer, which is kind of exciting. Or maybe I'm misunderstanding and this isn't at the actual line edit stage. So I went back and I looked at her email, and sure enough, her email says, this is the line edit stage, and you know, after we're done with this, then we got to talk about our submission package and everything. So I'm pretty freaking excited. So anyways, I was able to finish all of that last night, but I sent her an email today anyway that was just like, I just want to be crystal clear. Am I missing something here? Because I only see like 5 things and I don't want to overlook anything. We'll see what she has to say about that. She might have accidentally sent me a wrong version of the manuscript that doesn't have all of her line edit. I might have clicked on something funky that isn't showing me all of her things, because I still don't really know exactly how Word does this commenting thing. I might be posting another video that's like, oh no, that wasn't it at all. And in fact, there's a bazillion changes and took me a month to get through them or something. Or I will be posting in the next video, now we're on submission and we've heard some feedback, and this video is going really long, to prepare you for the next stage. After I send this back to her, after I get the email back from her that says, yeah, no, there are 5 changes, great, I'm done, here it is. Then the next step is she and I have a call where we talk about, she says, well, I'm thinking about these 5, I don't know why I showed 4 fingers to say 5. These 5 imprints, these editors at these specific imprints. To be clear, each of the big 5, top 5 publishers has like 20 imprints. And an imprint is something like let's say Becky Albertalli, for instance. You would say she is signed to HarperCollins, but not really. She's actually signed to Balzer and Bray, which is an imprint of HarperCollins. And then HarperCollins has also HarperCollins Teen, which sounds like, well, why isn't she signed to that? That sounds like the same thing. And it is basically the same thing. It's just each editor has kind of their own imprint. And so the imprint is specific, like these are the types of books that that particular editor wants to represent, or you know, whatever. So HarperCollins has several imprints that would be appropriate for me. They also have like young adult sci-fi, they have young adult fantasy. Each like subgenre basically has its own imprint. And that's just at HarperCollins. If we're talking about Simon & Schuster, they have a billion of their own imprints and so on, and Penguin. And we'll talk about like which are the 5 that we want to approach first, and then stuff like that. And then she'll write up her pitch, which she has basically kind of already written a rough draft of, and we'll talk about that. And then at that point is the nerve-wracking part of sitting and waiting for months. It will take them an eternity to get back to me. It will take at least like 3 months or something like that. There are crazy stories out there about how like how Becky Albertalli, for instance, they pitched to HarperCollins and they got offered in 4 days. That's unrealistic. That's not going to happen. It's going to take months. And then that's just the first round. It could very well be that all 5 say, no thanks, but here's some feedback about why we said no thanks, but no thanks. And then once they say no thanks, it's no thanks and you're done. You can't take their feedback and send it back to them. So then you send to 5 others. So that's why you might want to be strategic and not necessarily send to your top 5 all at once. You might want to just send to not even your absolute top number 1. You might want to send to like your second tier. Well, this is stuff that she and I will talk about, but do you understand where I'm going with that? Because basically you could utilize like your second tier picks to get feedback, especially in my case as a debut author and all this stuff, to get feedback to then go back to the manuscript, fix it all up with that feedback. This is what a top 5 publisher is looking for. And then in round 2, send it to your actual top 5 or some of your top 5. Anyways, the point is we'll do like 5 for round 1, collect that feedback, possibly rewrite the manuscript to some degree, and then send it out again, you know, and then go through the whole edit process again with her, and then send it out to another round for 5 more, and then so on. I think after like 3 rounds, it's considered like the book is dead. Like, if you can't get anything after 3 rounds, then what's the next book to try to send out there? This one is on the back burner. So anyways, this video is going on way too long for something that was so simple, which is just that I got my line edits. Wasn't at all what I was expecting. It was very little, and I finished it, and I think I'm now ready to go out on submission. So wish me luck with that. See you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.